Hello and welcome to a video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. We'll be reacting to some more of today's price reveals, including Chelsea and Cole Palmer's, to some shocking price, to others not so much. And I'm joined by Joe to do just that. Hi Joe, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me. It's good to discuss the price reveals that have come out, and obviously that signals the game's going to launch soon, so that's very exciting. And it's quite funny. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, excellent! So and so's 15 million. Excellent. So and so's 10.5 million." That player we'll mention in a sec. And it's going to make the game more difficult, as if it's going to apply to everyone else except them. But they're going to find it's more difficult for them as well. So the good times are the last couple of seasons where you can get Saka really cheap and Palmer really cheap and Gordon really cheap. Although, well, we'll come to him in a sec, but you can get all of these players really cheap. Those good times are gone. But for those of us who've been playing for a long time, and this is going to be my 17th FPL season, um, we're quite used to players being really expensive, not being able to afford them all, and so same as it ever was for us.
Yeah, cool. Well, without further ado, we'll get on to Chelsea. Today's first announcements. I'll read them out for the podcast listeners. So we got Cole Palmer in at 10.5, the highest increase ever in FPL history. We got Nicholas Jackson 7.5, Raheem Sterling 7, Reece James 5, and Kunku we had yesterday at 6.5, and then Dewsbury Hall at 6, the new signing from Leicester. So, what are you surprised by Cole Palmer's increase or expected?
It's quite expected. I was more surprised that Chelsea signed Dewsbury Hall after Brighton showed an interest in him. Um, than I was by Cole Palmer's price. In fact, I wasn't surprised by that at all because basically, as soon as a player breathes the word Brighton, Chelsea are in like a shot. And I'm saying that because you're a Chelsea fan. But yeah, so no, with Chelsea 10.5, I think that's okay, and especially if he replicates that form from the last season. Obviously, it's goals, assists, he's on penalties. Chelsea have got a good squad. They've got new recruits in, and crucially, it's fixtures really. So yes, they've got Man City that start, but then they've got Wolves, Crystal Palace at home, Bournemouth, West Ham, Brighton at home. These are good run of fixtures. I mean, looking back, then Nottingham Forest at home in game week 7. So I'm going to want Palmer for them. I'm going to probably want to captain him in a lot of those home games, potentially. But then they got Liverpool away, game week 8, Newcastle, Manchester United, Arsenal. It's a terrible little run from 8 till 11. So what that says to me is, yeah, I'll be keen to get Palmer in. 10.5 is fine. But I possibly look to offload him. And I think that's what the big change from last season. Last season, Palmer, whatever he was, 6 million or something, bung him in your team, keep him there forever. But the problem is it's a duff part of your team because everyone's got him, so it's immaterial what he gets. And you actually get to the stage where, when if you don't captain him, you just want him to do bad. Is these season these are not season keeper players. I think these are dipping in and out around the fixtures players. So I really like game weeks 2 to 7 for Chelsea. I'm going to want Chelsea investment then. Game week 8, I'm less keen. So I'm going to want to hop off. But luckily, they're so expensive. You can do that. But I think you're going to have to get used to price changes are going to be tricky. You've got to manage them because these players could go up in price or down, indeed. And so you've got to manage that. But at the same time, you've got to ignore the fact that you've maybe got zero point 0.3 or zero point 0.4 million tied up in a player and just think, well, I don't want all that investment for that terrible run of fixtures. And so I think that is the real big change. And I think Palmer at Chelsea really exemplifies how that's going to change out the way we play the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going back to a few years ago where we had a few more premiums. Obviously, before Hazard left, before Kane left. So it's good to have a
Mm,
couple more options in the expensive price tag, in my opinion. And
yeah.
we've got to mention Reece James because people will be talking about him in the community.
Mm,
I'm sure people were going to go there again at 5 million. But yeah, we've got to see that he's fit first, I suppose.
no, if he won't be. So don't bother. I mean, you've got a brain. We've all got brains,
He's going
and
to
we've got
tempt a lot of people,
and he's
I
got and
tell
it's
you
got
that.
there's a finite amount of brain juice that we've got all season, and I don't want to waste drop of that on contemplating getting a player in who not only is he suspended for the first few matches, but then will get injured. And even if he plays, he'll get injured. I'm just not. I'll live,
Yeah,
and
you live without him. Yeah,
I
that's fair
won't
enough.
be giving it. The only thought I've given to it is to tell you I'm not going to give any thought to it, and that is it. You can ask me about if you ask me about Reece James again in 5 weeks' time, I'll just look at you blankly. I'll just
Well, that's pretty clear. And yeah, we should mention Nkunku as well. 6.5. It's sort of a wait and see, but he's got a lot of potential. I think. Oh, he's changed positions as well to midfield, but he could be playing up front. But yeah, as I said, there's a lot of wait and see with Chelsea in pre-season.
Yeah, it's too many ifs and buts. What we do know, Palmer's on penalties. Palmer's good. Palmer gets goals and assists, and fixtures are great from 2 to 7. That's what we do know, and that's what I like about FPL is going with what you do know and question what you don't know. And it's all these people who say things like, "Oh, and Kunku's a bargain. That he's going to play up front. Is he? Is he going to play up front? Is he a bargain? Is he going to stay fit? Where's he going to play? Will he get rotated? Will he come off in 59th minute?" We don't know any of these things, but I'm happy to wait. And it's hardly like he's not a break your bank player to get in. So if he ends up being amazing by game week 3 or 4, well, I'll get him in for a few games.
Yeah, it's an easy downgrade anyway, if it turns out that way. Right, we'll move on to Brentford. They were the second team that we had today. Again, I'll read these out for the podcast. We had the goalkeeper Mark Flecken at 4.5, so that's no change. We had Ben Mee at 4.5. We had Kevin Schade at 5.5. Visser at 6. I think that's the same as last year. And we had Ivan Toney yesterday at 7.5. And then their new striker, who lots of journalists are saying is going to replace Toney if he leaves, and he's only 6, so that is a little bit of a watch list pick, I think there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, once again, going back to the fixtures, Crystal Palace, great opening fixture at home, but it's sort of not a great fixture run first few fixtures. Then they got Liverpool away, Southampton at home, that's good, Manchester City away. So I'm not going to want to invest a lot in Brentford. Then they got Tottenham away, game week 5, West Ham at home, game week 6. I mean, they're not great, but Brentford really shoot up from game week 7 onwards. Wolves at home, Manchester United, Ipswich at home, Fulham away, Bournemouth at home, Everton away. It's a really good run of fixtures there. So it's really lucky that we get a chance to sort of look at Brentford, see how they're going, and then you can really go for them sort of game week 6-ish time. But
Yeah.
I'm quite happy to wait and miss the odd good game in those first few fixtures. We don't know what's going on with Toney. Presumably he's going to leave. Yeah. Thiago at 6 million could be amazing. So he's pretty much a goal every other game player, not a goal a game, goal every other game player. So Ludogorets, I think that's Hungarian side. He appeared 34 times, scored 16 goals. More recently, Club Bruges, 18 goals in 34 appearances. So for 6 million, that's great. If you're getting a goal every other game, if you're getting 6 points plus bonus, presumably, every other game, absolutely brilliant. 6 million. I would really want him in. And luckily we get a chance to look at that.
Yeah, and the transfer window will be shut by the time the good fixtures roll around, so we'll have confirmation on Toney.
But the player that I'm more interested in, and they didn't reveal his price, is Brian Mbomo, who was fantastic in Toney's absence for the lot last season, also with Toney. Then he got injured, and then he came back, and he was still pretty good towards the end of the season. He can get really good hauls as well. So his price will be interesting because, I mean, his total FPL points of the season sort of belittles his actual talent because he was injured for part of that. So he's the player I'm very much interested in. Thiago is very much a watch list, and a Brentford defender I think would be good, or a goalkeeper like Flecken, good in a rotation. Because with Brentford, those first 6 fixtures are very, very rotation-y for a 4.5 defender. So yeah, that Crystal Palace, great fixture, bad fixture Liverpool, great fixture Southampton, bad fixture Man City, and you could possibly play him against Tottenham and West Ham. So yeah, I think a Brentford defender or goalkeeper is definitely in for me from the off.
Yeah, and Mbuemo's position will be interesting as well because he's sort of played half the season up front and half the season on the wing. So
I think that, largely with Toney, and if Thiago's come in, I mean he's I mean if you if Mbomo's a forward, then you've got to make Salah a forward and so on. So they're not going to do that.
But yeah, his price as well, 6.5 maybe, could be very interesting. And talking of interesting, yesterday, obviously I've spoken about this on previous streams, so I'll pass over to Joe for Haaland and Salah. Obviously, you've been playing FPL for a long time, 17th season, you said, and you've never seen a more expensive player than Erling Haaland at 15 million.
No, not just
So,
me. No one.
No
one
one.
has.
Yeah, it's pretty. So how would you sort of place that in the historical context of? You were talking. I saw you tweeting about Van Persie yesterday.
Right. Okay. Right. So I've got two experiences. So Thierry Henry is actually before my time. So there's players out there who've been playing. You can experience Thierry Henry was 14 million. The other two 14 million players were Ronaldo, Cristiano at Manchester United, who's 14, and Van Persie at Manchester United at 14. One was, I would say, just actually weirdly a season keeper could definitely keep him cheat code, and one wasn't. So Cristiano Ronaldo, this is peak Ronaldo. He was incredible. This is when he used to take free kicks and they went in. If anyone can remember that time, it was about 20 years ago, but it still happened. And he was absolutely amazing. You could pretty much captain in most games, and he would haul. And yeah, I mean, it was easy back then. At 40 million was fine. Um, and that also came with Gerrard, Fabregas, and Lampard all being somewhere around 8, 9, 10 million as well. So you had to fit all of those in because they were all brilliant. Um, so I think that was good. Van Persie wasn't. Now he had an exceptional season with Manchester United, and then so they upped his price to 14 million. And one of my immediate takes was to avoid him, and that worked. He didn't replicate that. Now, will Haaland if Haaland replicates last season's form, he's not worth 15 million because there are other players there. But with Haaland, it's not a case of so you'll start seeing some posts and things saying, "Oh, I bet you so and so outscores Haaland over the first 6 weeks, or over the first 12 weeks, or the whole season." Yeah, probably. I don't care. What I care about is nailing Haaland's haul. And so, what last season showed us with Haaland is that he is very much worth 15 million when Manchester City are playing a really easy team, a promoted side at home. Yeah. Is Haaland worth 15 million in a slightly trickier game away from home? No. So what this says to me fixture wise is we've got a problem here. And do we get Haaland in or not? If you don't get Haaland in, I mean, you see that so far the next most expensive striker is Watkins at 9 million or so.
Yeah,
And
9.
so
Yeah.
and 9 million. And so that's a huge so that 6 million can be spread to make your team really good. Taking that 6 million out of the side, you've got a problem there. So for me, Haaland is one of two things. One, I either just ignore, and I'm slightly minded to do that, like I did with Van Persie, as in just avoid that player and just really focus on these players like Palmer, etc. And Saka. We don't know his price yet as we're recording. Um, but at the same time, with Haaland, I do want him for certain fixtures. And annoyingly, game week 2. So game week 1, I don't care. He's playing Chelsea. I can live without Haaland. But game week 2, he's at home to Ipswich. And I will want him for that. Away to West Ham, game week 3, then Brentford at home, Arsenal and Newcastle. Well, I can take or leave him for those. So what I might do, well, okay, there's two choices that me and all of us will face. You could get Haaland in, captain him for Ipswich game week 2, so you've got him in for Chelsea, and then game week 3 you move him on to Ollie Watkins, perhaps from game week 3. So Ollie Watkins faces West Ham away, then Arsenal at home in game weeks 1 and 2. Well, I can live without Ollie Watkins then. But Leicester away, Everton at home, Wolves at home, Ipswich away. I'm not sure if I can live without Ollie Watkins for those. So Haaland to Watkins is the move. That will be the very, very popular move. So what I would think about is getting Haaland in, but only temporarily, and ignoring all those people going, so-and-so's going to outscore him over 8 games. Who cares? Will they outscore him at home against Ipswich? That's all I care about because that's when I'm going to be captaining him. So, yeah, either avoid completely or get him in with a view to get to removing him pretty quick, I think.
Yeah, and to emphasise that, I've brought the ticker onto the screen for those watching on video, and as you say, Ollie Watkins has got some really nice fixtures. Aston Villa are 5th for the first 6, whereas Man City are down in 18th for the first 6, but obviously with the standout in game week 2 against Ipswich at home. And then to add a further layer of complexity to that, you've got, for the video I'll go back to the Salah screen, Salah plays Ipswich in game week 1, so I suspect he'll probably be the most captained. So what do you think of him at 12.5?
Yeah. Well, that's fine. I mean, same as ever was with him. There was a decline last season, and Salah was like I view Haaland now, in that for me last season, Salah was I'll get him in for the good fixture runs, and I'll consider captaining him. Previously, Salah was just get him in and captain him. That was it. But now there are better options, Palmer, Haaland, for example. But yeah, Ipswich at home is a very good fixture, and Salah I would want in. Unlike Haaland, I would like to get Salah in for a period at the beginning. He's got Ipswich at home, then Brentford. Have you still got the season ticker on the screen, by the way?
Yeah, I've just brought
so
it back up.
Yeah, so people can see there. He's got Brentford at home, Manchester United away. Salah loves playing Manchester United. Nottingham Forest at home, Bournemouth at home. Wow. And then Wolves away, game week 6. Game week 7, Crystal Palace, Chelsea. And well, it doesn't really say they've got Arsenal in game week 9, but then they've got Brighton at home, Aston Villa at home. That's trickier. Southampton away. I mean, they've just got good fixtures all that time. So what I'm going to be looking at is pre-season for Salah. So out on even as he was last season, I'd want him for this run because he's very captainable. But will he play that role? There's rumours that Slot might want him to come more centrally, in which case he could be the main forward there. And then back or coming from the right in the sort of I don't know. I mean, we don't know yet because we haven't seen it in pre-season. So anyone saying yes, I'm going to get Salah, no, I'm not, even though I'm just saying I'm going to get Salah. Anyone saying definitely, I would say look at pre-season, and this is where Fantasy Football Scout will come in handy because every season the pre-season coverage, who's scoring the most goals, assists, where they're playing, how many minutes they're getting, all of that is documented on Fantasy Football Scout. And have a look at that. And that's what I'm going to be interested in. Where's Salah playing? How is he doing? If he is absolutely rubbish and just not getting involved, and it's Gakpo or Darwin even or whoever, someone else is playing. But I definitely want Liverpool coverage for those first fixtures. They're just too good. It's just too long a fixture run of good fixtures. A sea of blue on the season ticker.
Yeah, they are second for the first 6, so yeah, very appealing. And talking about the members area, Fantasy Football Scout and the ticker, we're going to bring up the offer on screen now. For the podcast listeners, you get 40% off Fantasy Football Scout Premium if you sign up today. It's not going to be cheaper over the course of pre-season, so get it done. And we've also, as well as this, the usual members offering, this year we have got an app, which you can see on screen now. You'll be able to get your heat maps, stats tables, premium articles, Plan FPL will be integrated into it, so you've got your projected points. You can look at your teams for the upcoming game weeks, and yeah, so that will be launching shortly after FPL. And to maximise it, you'll need Fantasy Football Scout Premium membership. So speaking of a premium membership, Joe, what do you look for in pre-season on the site?
Well, one of it was because I mean the members area has been going for a long time, and then an innovation came where you could create your own tables. And that for me was it just escalated the members area hugely. So I created the goals imminent table, which we feature regularly on a lot of videos and podcasts, which looks at those who are doing well on underlying stats, but less so on tangible goals and assists, who are due a goal or due an assist, due a return. And so you can create tables like that using those sorts of metrics. So you can create good goalkeeper ones based on various saves that they make per minute. You can do best strikers, whatever. You can just do it for anyone. So say a team's got a double game week coming up, you can do a table on their assets there, sort it by something like expected goal involvement, which is a good one. So it's finding those underlying stats really that the actual goals and assists aren't showing, but obviously it does include goals and assists as well. That's a good metric that someone's doing well as well. So you can do that. So I think collecting the table, the rate my team tool, obviously, and comparison tool over the years, that's been absolutely valuable, where you can just compare when you've got a 50-50 shout, which player shall I get in? And I think the best time I ever used that was when I was umming and ahhing over Spurs defenders. This is back when Asu Akoto was a thing, and I got him in over another player, and he got me 18 points that week. So I forever cherish that memory.
Amazing. Well, and next season you'll be able to do all that on the go on your smartphone with the app as well. So, looking forward to that. Right, we'll move on now to price points, because this is sort of a term that you've coined and you sort of use to create your first draft, especially around game week 1
Hmm.
and wildcard times. So, what I'm going to bring on screen now is the four midfielders that have been announced at sort of various price points. We got Bowen and Gordon at 7.5.
Mhm.
We got Bruno Fernandes at 8.5, and then Nkunku at 6.5.
Mhm.
So when you're looking at those, what are you thinking, and how are you sort of going about picking that price point that makes it flexible and gives you
Right.
the best start in game week 1?
Well, the ethos behind it is you're not looking at the player, but the price, and you're looking at the players you not necessarily will get in, but the players you might want to get in. All of those players you mentioned there, I might want to get in. So you need to have that price point in your team in order to do that. Um, so if you've got 5 million midfielders, Salah and Palmer, you think, oh, great, I've got Salah and Palmer. But say you wanted to get a Bowen in, you've got to find 2 million somewhere. So you want to have that sort of price point there. And obviously prices go up and down. So it is quite vague. You've got to be quite flexible, sort of within about 0.5 or even within a million. So I would look at it more like I want a premium striker because I might want Haaland. And there's a big gap so far, 6 million. So my instinct is to start with Haaland, then get rid of him. But he's like an outlier price point. So maybe he's not the best example for this. So someone like Watkins is good. So I'm assuming Isak will be similarly priced. Could be 8.5, I don't know, 9, something like that. Newcastle hasn't been revealed as of yet, but they could be by the time you're watching this. So you want a premium forward. You probably want a mid-price forward as well. Thiago, we just mentioned at Brentford. I might want to get him in. I might want to get Brighton striker. I might want to get Pedro in. I might want to get Jackson at 7.5. So I want that sort of 6, 7 million-ish. I don't want to scrabble around for 2 million, but I could scrabble around for 500,000. And it's the same with those midfielders there. All of those players you might want, you might not see get in game week 1, but you might want at some point. And so that's the ethos behind it. And the other ethos is you want to look at any player and think, can I get them in 2 moves? So if you don't have Haaland and you want to get him in, you've got to look at those other players. Say you've got Salah. So Salah at 12.5, and you've got, I don't know, an 8 million forward, but you want to spend that 7 million. Well, Salah's got to come down, way down to like 4.5 million, 5 million. And you've got to think like that. But can I do it in 2 moves? And if you can't hit those price points, and if you can't get a player in 2 moves, that's when you have to use a wild card, or you have to take lots of hits. And I see this time and time again. You count up how, so I take roughly between 3 to 7 hits a season. That's what I usually do. Um, if you're taking many more than that, you might be doing okay still, but chances are you're not. Chances are you're using those hits because you have to make multiple moves to afford the players you want to get in. But if you use that sort of price point ethos and you're already thinking, I might want to get them in, how will I do it? That's what you need to do there. And that avoids hits. And hits cost you 4 points. And every 4 points you go, you move down the rankings, you lose your lead in your mini league, and so on.
Yeah, that's very sensible stuff. So, sort of, if we're applying that to these 4 players, you would say that if you pick Nkunku at 6.5, it's a lot harder to get to Bowen and Gordon and Bruno,
Mm.
whereas it's much easier to come down. So, obviously, you've got to make sacrifices somewhere, but that is
Yeah, I mean,
the
the,
sort
the
of
way the
principle.
prices are sort of panning out at the moment, I would want at least 2 quite expensive midfielders. So if you'll get Palmer and if I started with Palmer and Salah, which I want to, I think, Haaland is tricky. So I think one of Salah and Haaland has to go. And if you have Salah, Haaland, and Palmer, you have got to make a hell of a lot of sacrifices. So that can't be a permanent way to run a team. And I've done that before. You mentioned Hazard earlier. I remember I got Hazard in, and there was, I think Alexis Sanchez was a thing at Arsenal then, and various other players. There were a lot of players that were, really expensive. I got about four in, and I plummeted down the rankings because the rest of my team was absolutely awful. So that's what you have to look at there. And there might be some price points you just think, I'm not going there.
I think that could be Bruno, perhaps at 8.5. It's a bit of a tricky price. But
Well, yeah, you say that. He's actually quite a good price for the price because so you haven't got Palmer, or you haven't got, for example, but you have got Bruno Fernandes, and you've maybe can get 2 million from elsewhere. Maybe you've got a premium defender. So within two moves, Bruno allows getting Palmer or another midfielder like Saka or Odegaard, who I'm presuming are going to be expensive as well. So he's actually quite a good price point because he's sort of in the middle. And of course, so you start with Fernandez and you think, oh God, I really wish I had Bowen in my team. Well, that's just absolutely easy. You just move him down. So it's quite a good price point in a way because he's in between things. The trickier price point. So when you're getting down to the sort of 5 million and below, and also your Haalands as well. 50 million is huge, and we haven't seen the likes of it before. And as I said with Ronaldo, that was worth it. That 14 million was worth it. Van Persie wasn't.
yeah, cool. So we'll go on to the forward price points now, because there seems to be a bit of a group developing in the 7 to 8 bracket. We've had Richarlison at 7. We've had Mateta at 7.5, Tony at 7.5, Jackson at 7.5, Havertz at 8, and you suspect Solanke will probably fall in there as well. And then, in my opinion, Watkins at 9, I think, may slip through the cracks for a lot of people, because when you've got your Salah, your Palmer, your Haaland, I'm not convinced you're going to be looking at Watkins. So his price point is quite interesting because could well be the sort of only 9 million forward.
Well, no, I mean, with Haaland, I see Haaland and Watkins as two sides of the same player in your team. You start with, I think we mentioned this before, you start with Haaland, captain for Ipswich, dump him for Watkins, and then hey presto, Villa's fixtures are good. But you've also got to bear in mind Villa, well, and City are in Europe as well. So you've got to bear that in mind. You've also got to bear in mind Watkins has been playing for his country. So will he get all of that pre-season? So luckily the first two fixtures you wouldn't want him anyway. The player I'm really interested in is Isak, because I think I would possibly captain Isak in game week 1. And I think he could be really worth it. I mean, he was obviously brilliant in the end of last season. He's been brilliant, all season really. So if his price may be 9 million, 8.5, 8.5, 8 million, I don't know. It hasn't been revealed yet. But presumably it's somewhere around that. At home to Southampton, Newcastle at home are better. Southampton promoted side. You would think Salah away to Ipswich, but Ipswich are also promoted side, but it's away. So you've got to think, what are those Ipswich players and fans going to be like? And what sort of game is it going to be? Will Salah get much joy there? I don't know. And so when I don't know, I'm not sure. Will a fit Isak, do well against Southampton game week 1, or certainly got the chance to? I think, yeah, maybe. So I do like Isak there. So I definitely, the price point there, I definitely want an Isak, a Watkins, whatever, whoever's 8 million, 8 to 9 million. I want that price point, definitely.
Yeah, that's a great shout, to be fair. Should we talk a little bit about Richarlison and Havertz moving from midfielders to forwards? Obviously, Havertz sort of ended the season playing up front for Arsenal. And Richarlison, I mean, Sam, obviously at Scout, she is a big fan of Richarlison, and she thinks he'll be starting the season up front. So 7 million could be a bargain, I think.
Could be, but he was good at Everton. He hasn't been good at Spurs as an FPL asset. Been in and out of the sides. Even when he started, I don't think he's been that good.
I think
So
he had
he's
a run of 6 or 7 goals. I remember I got him in.
yeah,
Yeah,
so he's had one run.
yeah,
And how long has he been at Spurs?
a couple
Two
of years.
seasons.
Yeah,
2 seasons, one run of getting him in. That's not good enough. So at the moment, but he could be great. So he starts with Leicester away, good fixture. Everton at home, good fixture. But then it goes Newcastle, Arsenal, Brentford. That's tricky. Manchester United. These are tricky games for Spurs. So I actually would only want Richarlison the first two anyway. I've been hit and miss with him anyway. I've got him in, and I've got the odd goal from him. Haven't, he- and he's not a player I really enjoy watching as well. I always think, is he going to get a red card? Is he going to kill that person? Is he going to grab that flare and start running down the sideline? But I don't know. And I don't want that sort of player on my team. But then, game week 7, got Brighton away, West Ham, Crystal Palace, Villa. It's tough. But then Ipswich at home. But then it get Man City in game week 12. So I wanted, basically, it's not a priority for me. I prefer the likes of Isak. And I'm just not going to go there with a forward who's going to get less points than
Yeah.
did as a midfielder. And the same goes for Havertz as well. So Arsenal, a tricky one, but I need to know Saka's price. So they start um, with Wolves at home, good fixture, but then they got Villa, Brighton at home. These are okay. And then Tottenham away. Well, that's a derby. Who knows? Then Man City, then Leicester game week 6. So Arsenal are sort of, I would like a defender, I think, for pretty much most of those fixtures, and an attacker, but it could be Saka, it could be Havertz. So if Saka comes in at 10 million, and what was Havertz against?
Havertz is 8 million forward.
8 million. It's still quite pricey, I think.
Yeah, obviously he's lost a point for a goal and lost his clean sheet point this year as well. So
Yeah. Historically, midfielders that are actually strikers then move to a forward are not good. Not as good historically because they just lose those points. They just become less attractive or appealing. Is he on penalties as well? So if he's on penalties, yeah, but it's Son, I believe, still.
Saka for Arsenal. Yeah.
And Saka is still on penalties for Arsenal, and
Yeah.
Havertz isn't.
Yeah.
That could be worth a lot, especially a team like Arsenal, which, the way Saka plays, the way a lot of their attackers play, it sort of entices defenders, bad defenders, to foul them in the box. And with VAR, you know, as soon as they do that, it's going to be a penalty.
Yeah, and then obviously you mentioned Son a bit there, but we haven't got his price yet. But that's another premium to add to the mix, I presume.
Well, on last season's evidence, he should be about 7.5, 8. But he won't be. He won't be. You're laughing at that. Well, he won't be because people think, oh, his Son is amazing. But Son, he's getting older each year. And so is Richarlison going to be up front, or Son going to be as effective on the wing? He certainly wasn't a great FPL asset last season. So, but FPL does tend to give a sort of premium on reputation. For example, Chelsea Sterling, is it Sterling 7 million?
Yeah, I'm not even convinced he's going to start, but yeah.
No, exactly. He shouldn't be 7 million. He should be 6 million. But his reputation as a player gives him that extra bump. Reece James should be like 1 million, but he's 5 million. It's because he was good once.
Yeah, well, I suppose they have to give themselves a little bit of insurance because if Reece James starts 30 games, he's going to outscore 5 million.
See, the Chelsea player I'm really interested in is Dewsbury Hall. And joking aside about obviously stealing him from Brighton, is that he was very, very good. I was very, very excited about him going. I absolutely thought he was amazing at Leicester. And this is why Chelsea have got him in. There's 6 million. So you would know this as a Chelsea fan. Presumably he's coming to replace Gallagher, who inexplicably Chelsea want to remove from their lineup, I understand. So
Yeah,
but if not, then Dewsbury Hall's absolutely rubbish at 6 million.
no, yeah, he could. There's rumours he wants to play 4-3-3 with sort of Palmer and Dewsbury Hall as the 2 8s in the midfield. So if he plays as a left-sided 8, attacking, licensed to get in the box at 6 million, that could be very good.
Yeah, because I mean, he is the former Leicester manager, so you would think Dewsbury Hall's come in, and I mean, he was great for him in the Championship, and he was great in the Premier League. And every time he scores, I put a picture of me in a top hat on because of his name, Dewsbury
Yeah,
Hall.
great name.
Yeah, let's hope he's more Earl Gallagher than Lord Drinkwater, another Leicester midfielder that Chelsea ripped up.
Or Kante, or as good as Kante, that'd be nice.
As good as Kante, I think. Well, yeah. If Dewsbury Hall was like Kante and is playing that far back all the time, then no.
No, but hopefully the transfers are successful.
Yeah.
Um, I think we'll finish with a bit of Brighton chat. Obviously, you're a Brighton
Oh,
fan.
yeah. Yeah.
We've
You
got
want to?
one prize, which I'm just getting on the screen now, and that is Solly March.
Yeah.
Someone that, I mean,
Yeah.
you'll know more than me, but
As a
he
Chelsea
was
fan, I
mid
think you
Deserby
all
player.
know. I think you all know more than me about Brighton players.
But yeah, Solly March was a bit of a Deserby. Deserby sort of brought him through, and a Deserby favourite. So I suppose a lot's up in the air at Brighton.
Okay, well, no, for a start, Zerbi didn't bring him through. It was Solly March has been like a standard utility man almost. You can play him anywhere.
But he turned
You
him
know,
into a goal scorer, didn't he? Yeah.
well, a little bit, but he was still wasn't great in front of goal. He still scored. It's just he was in a more goal scoring positions, playing more right wing. But he's played more. He's played at fullback. He's played attacking midfielders, in midfield. He's played on the wing, and yeah. I mean, it clearly worked really well with Matoma on the other side and March, and that was a great combination. But he's coming back from injury. He won't start the season. He'll be eased in. He definitely. Well, I'd be surprised if he starts straight away. I would say, he's a wait and see, but he does have, a bit of pedigree, and the price is good. But Brighton were lacking in wingers last season, despite having a lot. They're just all injured, really. So this season, I mean, I noticed that Brighton have done their business early. They are currently top of the transfers in the Premier League out of all sides. They've spent 84 million. And that is, they've got Minter, a right winger, which marches from Newcastle, a 35 million euros. Sorry, these 84 million euros. This is. They've also got Osman from the Norwegian League, 19.5. He's a left winger. So we've got wing options there. We've also got Kozia Dewberry, who's an Arsenal under 21, who's come in on a free transfer. He's on the right wing. He's going to be eased in as well. You're going to see him of the odd game, I would imagine, as well. And then Matoma coming back from injury, March and Pedro can play out on the wing as well.
A
And
Dingra
Brighton
as
have a
well. You got
yeah,
plenty. You got loads of
and,
wingers.
yeah, and I hadn't even mentioned the Dingra, who was amazing. So you've got a hell of a lot of competition if they're all fit. But if they're not, and if only two are fit, get one of them in, because that's what Brighton's probably like. The new manager, I'm not sure how that's going to work. Hopefully, it's going to be good. We've also got Matt's Vifer, is it Vifer? Defensive midfielder from Feyenoord. He's a 30 million. So I imagine he's coming if Pascal Gross is going to go, because he might go back to Germany after 6 years. Probably the best ever player Brighton's had. Um, and so you've got a lot of players coming in, new manager. There's a lot of unknowns here. But what we might not have is so much rotation. And we might have like it's more of an established side, which I think a lot of people want. But
An established
uh,
goalkeeper would be a start.
established, you would imagine Verbruggen is
Yeah, he's
gonna
been
be
great
the
in the Euros, hasn't he?
yeah, yeah. But also just looking at the fixtures, I'm actually I, they don't have a very good clear run. It starts with Everton away. That's tough. Manchester United at home. That's also not ideal. Arsenal away, not great. But then it's game week 4, Ipswich at home and Nottingham Forest at home. These are the two fixtures I want Brighton assets for. So I might get something like a cheaper Brighton defender or goalkeeper and rotate them. But for this game weeks 4 and 5, I would want an attack. I'd want an Adingra, a Matoma, whoever's playing out on the wing. And then they've got Chelsea in game week 6. So against obviously our B team there. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, it's Brighton and then go bottom of the ticker from game week 7. Tottenham, Newcastle, Wolves, Liverpool, Man City for Bournemouth in game week 12, where it gets better again. So with Brighton, I've spent time talking about it because I'm a Brighton fan, but um, I'm only really interested in game weeks 4 and 5, and then a bit later.
Yeah, so plenty to watch and see there in pre-season. Do we think, just quickly, do you think the defenders will get a little drop maybe to 4.5, or because Ex Stupinan was 5 last year, wasn't he? So could he
Mm.
potentially come down? Do you think?
Well, I mean, FPL are quite. Usually they go with what the price they ended on, and also their prospects, but it's mainly sort of on the past in a bit. away. So I think there could be a price drop there for a Stupinan. Lewis Dunk price drop to 4.5 would be very good because he does have some goal threat as well. But I think it's probably Verbruggen would be the one I would go for. And I haven't looked in detail at Brighton's rotation possibilities, but um, I mean, he's playable game week 1 against Everton. I wouldn't want to play him game weeks 2 and 3, so I'd be looking for to rotate him with a good player in game weeks 2 and 3. Play Verbruggen game weeks 4 and 5. That Ipswich, Nottingham Forest um, double up there. Then Chelsea wouldn't want to play Verbruggen, and so on. So yeah, I think it's more. I think there could be a price drop there. I think the way it seems to be going with prices at the moment is really established defenders that can do okay at like 5 million, 5.5. And the sort of unknowns, it's just a blanket sort of 4.5, I think. So I think Brighton defenders should come in cheap. Lewis Dunk, hopefully 4.5.
Yeah, could be a great option there. I'm just checking because it is 1 o'clock, and if we're going to get any price reveals, just include at the end here, but it's not looking likely at the minute. I think a team. Okay. Oh no, here we go. Aston Villa. We've got.
Okay.
So I'll read these out, and then we'll end. I think. So Ian Maatsen, the defender they've signed from Chelsea, the very attacking left back, is 5 million. Emi Martinez in goal is 5. Konsa is 4.5. McGinn is 5.5, and Leon Bailey is 6.5.
Right.
So there's a little bit to digest there.
Right. So immediately I want Konsa at 4.5. That's great. Martinez, I'm not interested in at 5 million. Maatsen at 5 million now. But Bailey 6.5 million goes back to what I was saying about the price points, those midfield price points. Might you want Nkunku? Well, maybe if you think he's going to do well, get him in, but maybe he doesn't. Well, hop on to Bailey game week 3. McGinn at 5.5 could be on penalties because Louise is gone. And McGinn was next in line on penalties, I believe. And Tielemans was also on penalties. So people thinking that Watkins is back on penalties might be disappointed because there's quite a few bodies in his way.
Yeah, that's something to watch in pre-season for sure on the Scout website. Well, I think we'll leave that there. Thank you very much, Joe, for all your insights and thoughts. You'll obviously be back a lot more in the coming weeks, so we're looking forward to that. Chris and Sam will be streaming tonight to react to the rest of the price reveals today if we get any more, which I believe we should be, so that will be exciting. If you're listening on the podcast, do turn on your automatic downloads and give us a 5-star review if you like what you hear, because there's going to be plenty more content coming. And those of you on YouTube, do subscribe, do like and comment what you think of the prices so far. So we'll wrap that up there. Thank you very much for your time, Joe.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks for having me.
And see you on the next video.